Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, is now at your doorstep.
By the way, what is corporate governance and what are its key pillars?
Will there be any conflict of interest if a person combines the roles of a chairman and a chief executive officer in a corporate organization?
What can Nigeria do to gain international recognition in the context of the application of corporate governance?
These and many more questions will be answered on
Corporate Governance Platform, a program designed to inform and educate our numerous viewers on the adoption of corporate governance best practices by corporate entities.
Join the Corporate Governance Platform crew every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. on MITV, your talent station, via DSTV 255 and UHF 43.
Corporate Governance Platform, your strategy for the adoption of corporate governance best practices by corporate entities. Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.
Thanks for joining us on Corporate Governance Platform, proudly brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. I am Tunde Odeyemi, and in today's episode, we want to look at guides to effective remuneration policy. And to do justice to this topic is Mr. NDIDI Nobu UCHECHUKWU. Mr. NDIDI Nobu UCHECHUKWU studied law at the University of Nigeria, Enugu, and graduated in flying colors, being adjudged the best and winning the law school prize for moot trial in civil litigation. He was admitted into the Nigerian bar in the year 2000. Mr. UCHECHUKWU is not only versed in boardroom business, he is also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Administration Nigeria, fellow of the Institute of Corporate Administration Nigeria, member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, United Kingdom, Nigerian branch, and as well as an associate of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. Mr. UCHECHUKWU is also a notary public. Mr. UCHECHUKWU, you are welcome to Corporate Governance Platform.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure being here today.
And thank you for finding time to join us on this program.
It's an important one.
Okay, we want to discuss a very important topic on remuneration policy.
Okay.
And I would like to start by asking, remuneration is very pivotal in corporate governance. Now, what are the likely implications if an organization does not get it right?
Okay. Now, thank you so much for that question. I want to start that way.
Okay.
Remuneration is core and key to the achievement of the corporate goals of every organization, because remuneration determines the type of people that work for you. There's this common statement, when you pay peanuts, monkeys work for you. Now, no organization would want to have monkeys work for them. And so, what you remunerate should be fair, should be transparent, should be competitive with your peer companies. And so, it becomes very necessary to have a policy by every company for remuneration. But then let me digress, let me go a bit particularized somehow. Since we're talking corporate governance here, our principal legislation is the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance, 2018. Now, the code provides for remuneration in Article 11 and also in Article 16. In Article 11, it recommended as one of the very three vital committees of every company to have a remuneration committee.
Okay.
Now, that's because of how important it is. And so, it limits itself to the remuneration of the managing director, the remuneration of the CEO of the company, the executive directors, the senior management. Now, in a company, you know that the directors are also in a contract with the company.
Sure.
And the ultimate owners of the company are the shareholders. We have a situation where you might have an MD, a CEO, who is also a shareholder, maybe the majority shareholder, but then there are other shareholders in the company whose interests ought to be protected, whose stake ought to be preserved. Now, if these executives will fix their own remuneration, it goes to that core issue of a contract, and the agency, which exists, the agency principle between the directors of a company and the company itself, inter se. So, it is a code, you know, in the code, the corporate governance came in to help in this situation, to deal with such circumstances where these top executives fix their own remuneration, and human beings being who they are, it might be greedily done, it might be tailored, you know, to suit them only against the overall interest of the company and the shareholders. This is why every company must get it right. Because the code, you know, the corporate governance seeks to avoid wastage, it seeks to have fairness, it seeks to have transparency, it seeks to have a level playing field where the company is sustained. The ideas of the company is sustained, the profitability is sustained, the stakeholder principle, which when we talk stakeholders, it even goes beyond ordinary shareholders. Those whose life or every other thing will be affected by the activities of this company are all stakeholders in the business. So the general interest of the stakeholders is valued, and remuneration goes to the core of it. Because any company that gets it wrong will either have so much wastage, will likely have mismanagement, will likely have trust issues between the managers, that's the directors, and the shareholders, will also have employability issues, because if the policy is not transparent and clear-cut, you may not likely get the right people coming to work for you. So this is a very important matter.
Okay, wonderful submission there. That means there are a lot of negative effects if any organization does not get the remuneration policy right.
So much.
Okay, I would like to invite our viewers to join us on this program by sending text message only for comments or questions to Mr. UCHECHUKWU. You can send your text message to 080-2323-1287. I take that again, 080-2323-1287. Now, while responding to the first question, you actually mentioned the Remuneration Committee of the Board as provided by the code. Now, in specific terms, what are the functions of the Remuneration Committee of the Board?
Okay. Now, the Remuneration Committee of the Board is saddled with the responsibility of formulating, determining, fashioning the remuneration policy of the company. They also determine what should be the remuneration or earnings of the top executive, the CEO or managing director, depending on the nomenclature of a specific company, and the top management, the executive directors, and such top management. They are to determine what their earnings will be.
I'm listening.
Yes, what their earning will be is a function of this committee. So they also determine other things like other incentives that the company designs to enhance or achieve best of practice, achieve best of support, achieve best of efficiency in the company towards the attainment of the overall company goals. Okay. Is their responsibility.
Okay. There is this phrase that says that, the phrase is in corporate governance balance, that remuneration should be sufficient to attract, to retain, and of course to motivate, but should not be excessive. Can you shed more light on this phrase?
Okay, that phrase comes from the Article 16 of the NCCG.
Yeah.
It goes without saying. It has to be fair. It has to be competitive, as it were. If you have the wrong remuneration, if you pay, let me come down a little bit.
Okay.
When you have peer companies, company A, B, C, D, C, are of same size, operating the same industry, they have similar kind of balance sheet and size. If you choose among them to pay the least, you will likely not have the best of staff. The others will poach your staff and take them away. You see what it means? If others are moving and you are not moving, okay, you are likely also going to lose your best staff. Now, you know the employees are the strength of every company, of every organization. They determine, pursue, and implement the policies that will achieve the overall goals for that company. Okay. So, but then, because these directors, top management, if you allow them to fix the remuneration for themselves, then there is a likelihood of the human greed that can come in. If I am the CEO of a company and I fix my allowance, I can choose to buy myself the best cars. I can choose to live in the best house, all on the company's expense, whether the company is doing well or not doing well. So you see, the code recommended it doesn't have to be excessive. So you see, it is something that is comparative with the size of the company. For instance, there's a company, I heard about, they were in a certain business that requires production. They have not even started production, but the directors fixed their remuneration at such a high rate that when they couldn't get to production, they are in debt.
They've not even started production.
They've not started production, but they were using bank loans, meant for production to pay very high remuneration. And the company went down.
Wonderful.
So this is a very important thing, that it has to be fair, it has to be balanced. Yes, it should be competitive, but then know your size.
Know your size.
Know your size. Okay. I also know of another company that when they started, they were accused of being, the MD CEO was accused of being stingy, of not paying the people well, but he knew his size. A few years later down the line, he's one of the best paying in that industry. Why? Because he had to walk the company, walk through the policy to such a time when they start making much money before they can start paying much salaries.
Okay, you've got to know your size.
Know your size.
That will determine the remuneration policy
of the company. And that's why the committee has to step in, because the committee will make inquiries, the committees will make a research, the committee will check peer companies around, and check the size of the company, what is available, what is doable at the time. No company should pay big remuneration with loan.
Okay, still talking about the committee. The Remuneration Committee is entrusted under the Corporate Governance Code.
Yes.
With developing remuneration policy and structure for all directors, senior management, employees. You mentioned that. Now,
yes.
The question is, who are the senior management employees, and which body should determine the remuneration of the employees below the senior management cadre?
Okay, that's a very straightforward one. I already mentioned in passing.
Yeah.
The senior management includes the directors, the executive directors. They include the top management in every company. Every company has got its own organogram, so it doesn't suit all. But you see, in every company, those who are the senior management. In a practical term will be those who work in a company at such a level where decisions are taken by them. Okay?
Okay.
Key decisions are taken by them. Then ordinarily should not fix their own remuneration.
Okay.
Because they are top management. So, but then the next part of the question is, who handles the rest? Of course, even from KAMA, it is provided that the management, represented by the MD CEO of any company, and then those in the management team, they fix the remuneration of the others. But my recommendation, and the proper corporate governance recommendation, is that even for the lower class of workers, okay, who need not come before the remuneration committee of the board, there still should be a policy to what the remuneration should be. I got a question earlier today when I informed someone that I was going to be here talking on this topic.
Okay.
And the fellow working in one of the wonderful organizations sent me a question. Said, okay, before you even go there, can you answer this question for me? And what was the question? He said, look, in the organization where she works, the junior workers, the employment and the remuneration is haphazard. Okay, so you can be this with this. It's not even about the degree you have, the level of qualification you have. They just place you where they want to place you. And what was my recommendation? I said you need to do a remuneration audit of that company. Contact Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators immediately. Let us help you to, formulate the best policy for your company. And that is what we use to help at that moment. So those below the management, the MDCO and the management would determine. But where there is a policy already in place, which is being implemented by the management of the company, then it becomes transparent.
Okay.
We hear of one particular very busy, one company that operates in one of the very enterprising industries somewhere around the telecom. At the time, they had this reputation that 4 people can come for an interview, the same time, while this one gets a jumbo salary, the other one gets something below, the other one gets another. So nobody, 3-5 managers in the same company may earn different things, depending on how the interviewer smiled at the moment of the interview.
that apparently shows lack of policy, lack of structure.
Exactly. So there's not a policy, there's not a structure. Even though they are the lower class, there should at least be a transparent remuneration structure.
Okay, let me create a scenario here, because you also alluded to it at your opening remarks.
Okay.
Suppose in a situation whereby an organization, a business enterprise, is been running at a loss for about 2 to 3 consecutive years.
Okay.
Now, do you think, in your own personal opinion now, is it appropriate for the directors of that company to be remunerated? And the other way to it is that, do you think the shareholders will be happy when their dividends are not being paid and the directors are being remunerated?
Okay, I will take this question from 2 angles.
Okay.
The executive directors are employees of the company. Remember,
yeah,
there is a contract, the company and these ones. So you cannot say because they didn't perform, you cannot remunerate them. What they earn is what salaries.
Okay.
But if you're talking about non-executive directors,
okay,
then it becomes, yes, the shareholders may say, oh, non-executive directors were running at a loss, so why should we pay you? But look at it this way. The same code provided that the board will make a recommendation, fix the remuneration of the non-executive directors, and it will be subject to the confirmation of the shareholders in general meeting. You get that?
Yeah.
So, you can't blame them for recommending. For instance, a company could be going through their situations, and then they attracted a non-executive director who has the magic wand, the know-how, okay, to turn the company around. He might be making losses. In the last 3 years, he might be making losses. But he's about to get into, a robust situation.
Remember, the shareholders' dividends are not being declared.
Dividends are not being declared. Let me give you something that looks practical.
Okay.
Let's get into the oil and gas industry where I play.
Okay.
It might take you 10 years of exploration. You've not seen 1 bottle of oil. In that 10 years, you may have put in $500 million. You've not seen a bottle of oil. Now, you have these directors with know-how, especially the non-executive directors, bringing in their wealth of experience, bringing in their ideas, helping in the sourcing of funds, helping in sourcing of partners, and then you say because you've not gotten dividends for this number of years, you're not going to pay them. No, their work has a longer gestation. Okay? If you come in the fast-moving industry, fast goods moving industry, okay, for instance, okay, let me just finish up with the oil industry. If in the next 2 years, these directors you're talking about may have achieved so much, but there's no dividend yet. It could be that they have loans. They have taken loans. They are servicing these loans, which they took to get the company where it is. They won't be declaring dividend at that time because they have these loans to service. But as soon as they get out of the woods, everybody will go back sleeping. Nobody will remember what the executive directors did and what the directors did. It takes a lot actually to sit on the board of a company and make relevant progress. So my take would be the shareholders shouldn't feel that way. We should trust the directors of the company. The members of the board are entrusted. They have a fiduciary responsibility under CAMA. Okay? They have this, we ought to trust them to be able to take the right decisions. And if they propose that such non-executive directors should have, remuneration increased or improved upon, they are also looking at peer companies because they don't want to lose those ones at that time. They could lose them, and it will be more counterproductive.
Okay, let's go back to the code. The Corporate Governance Code 2018 recommends that the committee should, among other things, develop a formal, clear, and transparent framework for the company's remuneration policies and procedure. Now, what is the essence of the term, or the phrase, clear and transparent?
Okay, clear and transparent is It has to be written.
Okay.
It has to be understood. MDs come and go. Executive directors come and go. The policy should be such that any other person could come and implement it. Any other person could come and work with it. That's what it means by being clear and transparent. Even in the Bible somewhere, it says, write the vision, make it plain, so that who will come and run with it. That's actually what the transparency is all about. It should be such that it's understood. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing padded. Nigeria will talk about padding. There's nothing padded in it. It's so simple that anyone, can work with it. That's actually what corporate governance is all about. Transparency, openness, doing things the right way, best practices. That's what it's all about.
So it should be written so that we don't have a situation like you mentioned the other time where 4 people were employed and different remuneration.
Different remuneration for others.
Okay. Now let's look at this other aspect. The principle that no one should be involved in fixing his own remuneration. You already mentioned is very popular in corporate governance.
Yes.
Now, why is this desirable?
It's like asking, why are human beings human?
Yes, why are human beings human?
Why are human beings human? They are human because they are human beings.
Okay.
Why is it desirable? No man should be a judge in his own cause. You predetermine what it's going to be. I was talking about a company that, took a decision to give themselves very high remuneration in anticipation of success in the future, and they never had it. That's why this thing has to be.
My issue with that is that the remuneration committee is also of the board.
Now, the remuneration committee is of the board.
Yeah.
Good. That's why this code is a wonderful document. The code recommended that the remuneration committee should be predominantly made up of non-executive directors.
Okay.
So they are not the ones, you are not in your own cause. The non-executive director, I'm non-executive. It even recommends where it is practicable, an independent non-executive director should be the chairman of the remuneration committee. And that's an excellent policy. An independent non-executive director is one who doesn't even have a share in the company. And if it does, is less than 0.5. That little margin was left in case there's a employee stock, there's a stock, okay, benefit stock or something that comes. But you don't have a stake. So you can take a decision looking at the people in their faces without minding. Because you're not a shareholder of the company. You don't own shares. You're non-executive. And you are considering the remuneration of the executives.
Okay. What of the remuneration of the non-executives in terms of directors' fees, sitting allowance?
Now, it is the entire board that now takes that decision. But you see, the code also recommends, as much as possible, if I'm going to consider your remuneration, assuming we're sitting on the same board, you are a non-executive director, and then we are considering the remuneration of the non-executive. If there is no policy, remember, more often than not, there's a policy for it, which is what the code recommends. Now, if there's a policy, it's already in the book. Before you come in as a non-executive director, you already know that this is what the annual director's remuneration is. This is what the package comes with. And it's a contract between you and the company. And so it's recommended that you insert these principles in the contract of your non-executive directors or independent non-executive directors, so that it is there spelled out.
Ab initio.
Ab initio.
Okay, let's look at an extension to that question.
Okay.
The code also recommends that remuneration committee should at least once in a year include on its agenda a discussion with the head of internal audit function and the external auditors, without management being present, to facilitate an exchange of views and concerns that may not be appropriate for open discussion. Now, what do you think is behind this particular recommendation?
Okay, that's good. Thank you. I'll start with a scenario, a practical scenario.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, in one of the companies where I function, the external auditor gave me a call and said, look, I'm running the audit of the company. There are certain things I don't like. I don't like what I'm seeing. And I feel the person who will understand it is you. Can you talk to these directors and let them know something is fishy here? Good. If the executive directors are the ones that fix remuneration, they will fix it in their own interest.
Sure.
They will also protect their own interest. But for the remuneration committee, remember the recommendation of the code, they are to be non-executive members, possibly, if it's possible, headed by an independent non-executive director. So they are on the other side, while the executive and the managing director are on the other side.
Okay.
While the internal auditor of the company works, the financial works under the MD, the external doesn't. So this recommendation is so that they can have thoughts, ideas coming from these, bodies, where the internal accounting system can be opened up to this committee. For instance, a company may have fixed some types of incentives, milestones on achievement. For instance, a company may have a policy, if we hit 1 billion in sales, the MD at that moment will become entitled to XYZ, or it might even be shares. Now, those who keep the record of it are the internal accounting system, the internal auditor, as well as the external auditor that must capture it in the annual report of the company. So having such a meeting is to enable the remuneration committee to look at this. The code also makes provision for a clawback. Remember, there's a clawback policy in the code. So it affords the remuneration committee an opportunity to look from the side of the internal auditor, external auditor, the accounting people, outside of the MDs. Because if the MD is there, they will be afraid. You can't say so much in the presence of your MD. But at the back, you might say, Oga, check this thing, look at this thing very, very well. And then someone can look at it very well to know that something is actually...
Thank you very much, Mr. UCHECHUKWU. We won't be able to take more than that. But in 30 seconds, can ICSAN carry out remuneration survey for organizations?
There is no better organization than ICSAN. Institute of Charter Secretaries and Administrators have been in the forefront of corporate governance as a principle.
Okay, I take the answer to be a resounding yes.
Just come to ICSAN. You will get it done.
Thank you very much. That is the much we can take on this episode of Corporate Governance Platform. Mr. UCHECHUKWU, thank you for coming to share your thoughts on remuneration policy of organizations. I hope we can call on you another time to come and discuss more on this remuneration policy.
It will be my pleasure to come again, and I would like to say thank you for inviting me in the first place.
Thank you
very much. Thank you to our wonderful, noble organization, ICSAN.
Thank you, our viewers, for watching. This is where we wrap it up for today. We invite you to join us again next week, same station, same time. I remain Tunde Odeyemi. Keep spreading the gospel of corporate governance. Bye for now.
Corporate Governance Platform, a program from the Institute of Charter Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, is now at your doorstep.
By the way, what is corporate governance and what are its key pillars?
Will there be any conflict of interest if our person combines the roles of our chairman and a chief executive officer in a corporate organization?
What can Nigeria do to gain international recognition in the context of the application of corporate governance?
These and many more questions will be answered on
Corporate Governance Platform, a program designed to inform and educate our numerous viewers on the adoption of corporate governance best practices by corporate entities.
Join the Corporate Governance Platform crew every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. on MITV, your talent station, via DSTV 255 and UHF 43.
Corporate Governance Platform, your strategy for the adoption of corporate governance best practices by corporate entities. Institute of Charter Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.